far?
Cool.
What surprised you the most about it, or what was unexpected so far?
Not really anything unexpected, but it's just so cool to see everybody get together and how people get into it. And the different things that are happening and going on.
Great.
That's about the best part of it.
And I know, Nick, yesterday you met some fans who were very excited about what you're doing. And especially for the four of you, I mean, obviously you've done shows before this. How has Comic-Con changed? How has it been different now as opposed to when you've been here in the past? Maybe you can each answer one at a time.
It's bigger this year. It's a lot bigger. A lot of you probably recognize that. I did it in 2010, 2011, and it was just growing back then, but this year it's just massive. And they got a lot of people here this year. You have like Game of Thrones, Viking, you have all the hit shows that are here, which is really cool. So I'm just happy to be here in the whirlwind of fun. So it's really interesting.
What about you, Katrina?
So this is my first Comic-Con. What I love about any kind of con is like there's no judgment. You know, everyone could just let their inner imagination come out, and if you want to say, you know, geekiness, which is what I think a lot of people. We say I'm a huge geek, I'm a nerd, and like I love it. Yeah, and I just like let it go. And it's amazing people having the costumes. I love all the costumes and the time and effort people put into it and the imagination. It's just so nice being around like so many creative people at once.
We get to be in the light for once. Usually we're in the dark a lot. So.
Yeah, it's
nice to be in the sunshine. I've been working on my tan, so I was like pale white when I go to like locations.
Amy, Adam, what are you thinking?
I'll go. Shall I?
No, please do.
I've been to New York Comic Con, I've been to Dragon Con, and really this is the first time I've been to San Diego Comic Con, and this is like the ultimate. I mean, everything else was child's play compared to what's happening here, and it was just as frightening. It's a lot of fun. We never get to see each other in the same room ever, and we're all friends in the paranormal community, so it's nice to have that time with us. I mean, we're seeing each other more today than we've seen each other in probably since Paranormal Lockdown.
Since Dreams Allegheny.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's wonderful that we get to do that and hang out and meet the fans and promote the work that we're doing in the community. Really.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely so much bigger than, because I think I was here in 2011 as well. And so I thought, oh, I've got this. And then we got here and I'm like, oh God, no, I don't got this. This is big. But I feel like it's very well organized for how many people are here. Like everybody knows where they're going. And then I also like the opportunity just for us, obviously being all together, but everyone we know and have worked with in the past from different media outlets, other stations, like, they're all here. So it's like kind of a little reunion too, which is really cool.
So you guys have been doing this for a very long time. How has paranormal and the acceptance of it and what you do and how you study it, how has it changed from when you first started? Do you find it more accepted, more skeptics? Tell us how kind of the industry or the thought process has changed since you first began.
It's definitely, the paranormal is interesting because a lot of people tie it to their religious beliefs. So a lot of people are afraid to come out and say, you know, I've had this experience, or I know someone that had this experience. And what's been great about the shows came out, you know, starting 2004. And it really brought it to a mainstream audience where people were like, you know what? I had that happen too. And you know what? My grandfather told me this story. And when we could go out and do events like these cons, we meet so many people that are like, you know, I've never told anybody this before, and you're the first person I'm telling. It feels so good to get that off my chest. So I find it really fascinating that, you know, TV has been able to bring about some level of acceptance because, you know, 15 years ago, it really wasn't there. I mean, we were all looked at as weirdos, and I mean, we're still kind of weirdos, but like,
we're weird.
I mean,
We're totally
we're
weird.
weirdos, but it's just, you know, we're accepted weirdos now, which is great. And I think as the shows continue to go and we continue to grow as a paranormal community, I think it'll only get more and more accepted.
Yeah,
I think it's oh no, go ahead.
No,
I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say, I think it says something that Destination America is like this paranormal programming is making the network now, that there's an entire station dedicated to the paranormal. That says kind of how much it has come to the forefront.
I find it interesting after 44 years.
Thank you.
And when you get, I know everybody in the field, you know, dealing with everybody, and everybody's like family. So I was thrilled to death that Destination America pulled this together. you know, for me to be able to hang out. And I got a bad habit of always saying my kids, and Nick and I were just talking about it. Then people start emailing going, are these all your kids? I'm like, wow, I was busy over the years.
John's my long last
Yeah. It's great to see it. I love what Destination America is doing with the paranormal, bringing the shows on, creating the new shows. All of us know each other from a different genre, and you know, I was very excited because it's like Haunted Collector got reborn.
Yeah.
And you know, I have a whole new audience looking at it, people telling me they're viewing it differently, and it's, you know, a lot more open today than it was years ago. People are a lot more accepting, and like the guy's saying, people share a lot more information.
We're not hiding in the paranormal closet anymore.
Thank you.
I had to get that one in.
No, I think it's great. You know, it's so fascinating because I think no matter what your beliefs are, what your background is, you go through life and you think about death at one point in your life. Either it's at the end of it, no matter what you're thinking. The fact of the matter is we're all going to pass away someday. I mean, some take it as a negative, some take it as a positive, depending on where you are in your life. But I think that's the most fascinating thing is what we do is we're searching out these unexplainable things, these phenomena. There's millions and millions of stories out there from people having experiences that they don't fully understand. And I think that's what we're so fascinated about, is trying, for Katrina and I, trying to discover something new in the paranormal field. It's not at the point anymore where we're out to like prove ghosts exist or disprove ghosts exist. We're like in the middle trying to discover something new. Like a scientist trying to discover a new planet, you know, what that planet is made up of. That's really what we're searching to do. And sometimes we have to go kind of to the depths of like the most sinister locations to search out some of these unexplainable happenings, because typically that's where a lot of that happens. So it's interesting, but as we pursue, you know, through our life, it's also a personal experience that we're walking away from, you know, our investigations.
And what's great is, you know, it's tangible. Like for what we do, we approach real people who are living in homes who have, like maybe a loved one has passed on, and they don't know how, they think that they're in the house with them, and there's also something else in the house with them. So, you know, this idea that what you see on television isn't reachable, it is extremely tangible. These families need help, and there are millions of people out there that have these experiences, and it's bringing it, you know, back to, for what we do, it's like bringing it back to where it all started. Homes that are haunted by things that are unexplainable, and really giving these people an opportunity to have their lives back.
Does anyone have any specific questions before I jump into my go for it?
My question is, what is one location that's like your dream location to investigate that you haven't yet been able to do?
Well, Hotel Del, right? I mean, I've never investigated there. That would be one of them.
I got a good story about that. Del Coronado?
Yeah.
Yeah, right here. So I was there 2010 for Comic-Con, and we were in there doing a press thing like this, but there was only like one interview. And there was a lady who was very skeptical. She was Catholic, very religious, didn't believe in any of this, believed in God and, you know, heaven and hell and whatnot. And she has a water bottle in her hand, and it was crazy. She's holding the water bottle like this, and she's listening to us, and she's right next to me. We're in this haunted room where the woman committed suicide, supposedly.
Yeah.
And she's standing there, and all of a sudden she does this, and the water bottle, I saw the corner of my eye just flies across the room.
Wow.
Like, out of her hand across the room. We're all standing there, and she's standing there. She starts shaking, then she starts crying, then she, like, all these emotions hit her, and she didn't know what to do. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, holy, did that just fly out of your hand? She's like, yeah. And she ran out of the room, ran down the hall, and I had to catch up to her. The whole interview stopped, and literally, like, she's like, I've never had that happen before. I didn't understand it. I had all these emotions. I broke down crying. And I think sometimes when you have something hit you that strong, like where your mind can't comprehend what just happened, that's a major paranormal experience.
Especially
Where
when you have such a disbelief, right?
when you have
It
such
becomes real, it's
exactly,
like, oh my God,
exactly.
that happened.
Because your mind wants to logically try to
Right.
explain how is that possible that something can rip that out of my hand when I was gripping it, you know? So that was an interesting story that
Yeah,
I
that's
shared
cool.
sometime. But Del Coronado, it's it's unique. It's, I think, yeah, obviously it has some haunting stories, but it's definitely a historical part in San Diego.
To me, the Vatican.
Oh,
I mean, you got so many years of history, you have this whole section that's, you know, this hidden archives with everything that's transpired within the paranormal. And it's not just about the Catholicism end of it. It's all the different religions, the different belief systems, the catacombs. I walk over there to go investigate. That would be my offer.
Walking on water.
I'll walk.
I think mine's like kind of less serious. I really want to investigate Graceland.
Yeah.
I've heard the second floor is haunted, and then now I saw this like crazy photo on Coast to Coast of this gardener that they're saying is
Yeah.
actually Elvis. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
so I'm like, well, if we investigate and we find Elvis's ghost, then clearly Elvis has actually died,
He's left the
and we've
building.
like solved the whole mystery.
Yeah.
He's left the building.
He's left the building.
He's not the guy.
The White House would be great if we could get
Yes.
access. That's always, they said that,
We tried.
I know, we tried. We can't do it. We almost investigated actually Fenway Park once.
We
That
were
was
so
nice.
close to investigating Fenway, and we could too. Actually, I was just there and they talked about
Right,
it.
right.
Trying
You
to
guys-
get the big.
So don't take that
2017, let's investigate. The Great Monster.
Yeah,
Oh,
we've
yeah.
been working on it for the last year, and we spoke to, like, we know who the owner is and everything, and we've been trying to gain access and whatnot. We're very, very close. She was actually very interested in us. It's an interesting location. I mean, it's unique because you have a location that left a mark, a stain in a negative fashion in a society, a community that basically rippled effect into a beautiful community. And now that stain is still there, you know? It's like,
I grew up in New York.
Oh,
Yeah.
Anytime you drive by, I mean, my father would speed up. He's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Get the hell out of
Yeah,
here."
but it's just a routine of
Yeah.
history, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
Interesting.
known, like, nobody even wants to just drive by.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't know what's gonna
To me, naturally, it's always been an intriguing piece of property. You know,
Mhm.
Kathy and George, I knew them. You know, Chris Lutz or Cortino, whatever he's going under now. Him and I are very good friends. And the history and some of the things, you know, about the Amityville, it's intriguing and interesting. And the two boys at this point in time are bringing a lot of the information that's been hidden over the course of the years to the forefront.
Yeah.
And it's important.
Yeah.
Because everybody always says, do you think it was fake? You know, no, I know it was a real case. I know a lot of things that never came publicly. So they're all working on stuff to get it out there. So I think that's cool.
Has anybody thought about going to some historic battle sites like Gettysburg?
We've
done it,
Yeah.
We've done that.
I've
That's
done Perryville Battlefield. I did right near the Antietam Battlefield, Gettysburg. I did pretty much the whole town.
Farnsworth and
We've done
Yep.
Jenny White House, we did,
Yep.
what was that, the orphanage, that whole area. We actually go back every year, and
Do events,
do
yeah.
events there. We do like a big conference there, and we bring people with us.
it's nothing like seeing a full body apparition of a soldier in the middle of a battlefield to wake you up. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, there you go, there's that guy.
Do you guys ever, wonder maybe about going to Haiti where all the voodoo, has happened there, or maybe even Mexico to the
Yeah.
Hispanic communities, because
Yeah,
it's
we
a
were
really
just-
big,
We were talking about
it's a
that.
big
Yeah.
deal, not just because of Catholicism and religious beliefs, but there have been several battles in Mexico,
Oh,
Yeah.
in Guadalajara, to name a few, to Los Altos de Jalisco, where a lot of sightings have happened. Is that something you guys would ever consider?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
definitely would, especially with all the kids out on their mark.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I had an opportunity to work on something down there, a big mansion. It was an executive, and one of the women was very interested in the paranormal, so she went into the cemetery, and as you know, with their culture, they place a lot of things on the graves and things. She took a few things home. You don't do that.
So now
And
you
she
can't
ended
have
up,
every-
right?
Yeah.
And she ended up having a major haunting taking place, so I did get definitely involved with someone in Mexico down there. That was on hard level with trying to clear it.
Yeah, we've been looking at a lot of locations down there. You were just at the
I
Mine
was
Temple.
just, at Tulum.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and I was speaking to my tour guide who we were talking about filming down there and what it would take. So Nick and I chatted about it when I got home.
It's my dream. I want to go to
Yeah.
my temples and just go into the ruins and stuff.
Or the Aztec
It's amazing.
pyramids
Aztecs,
too.
yeah, absolutely.
We just actually did that. We
I
did
know,
a
we were
whole-
just in Belize
and
Costa
Honduras and
Maya.
Costa Maya, and we were touring. We took a bunch of people, a bunch of fans on an awesome Mayan ruin tour, and talked about investigating outside and how you would do that and where we are. And
Yeah, I mean, it's wild, just talking about culturally, because right now we're dealing with families, so we go into these homes, and it's really interesting to see how each of them deal with their hauntings differently depending on their culture, their religion, what they've been dealing with in the past in that way. And so, I mean, it all kind of comes back, even just that affects even these small homes that we're investigating.
It's all stigmas too, because it's like they believe a certain thing and they've been told a certain thing and then they think a certain thing and it affects their entire life. So it's like kind of readjusting their way of thought to a more practical and more, I guess, explained way so they can really live. Because these people, some of these people that we meet, there was a woman, we just did a case, there was a woman where she didn't live in half her house. She didn't, half her house, she like shut the door and was like, I'm not, I don't go in there.
That's where the bad things are.
Right,
She wouldn't
and we're like,
go
well,
in there.
like, you know, and so it's like being able to find out what's actually there for her so that she can cope and live in her house and have her house back, you know.
Unfortunately for us, I have to pick the most sinister locations because the problem is like we're trying to go for where's the most absolute haunted, phenomenal, paranormally active place right now happening, because I want to document like the Holy Grail. You know, our goal is to document something that is paranormal out of this world that we don't fully understand. So unfortunately, sometimes those are very sinister locations with a lot of energy, a lot of death, a lot of tragedy, and we really just unfortunately engage that and put ourselves confined into these locations for 72 hours straight. So we're living in like, forget the paranormal for a second, we're living in the environmental elements that just really stink sometimes. Like we don't shower for 3 days. I mean, your face just feels like it wants to peel off after. We're sleeping on like sleeping bags or cots or sometimes just the grounds because I get sick of putting the cot up. I just throw the thing aside because it's like you're so tired and stuff and those legs don't stay
It's not
up.
that bad. I did it for like 15 minutes. It was totally fine. My 15 minutes.
It was like 5.
It was not 5. It was longer than 5 minutes.
But your reaction was the best. Okay, so I slept in this haunted hallway at Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, and they come in on the second night, and basically, I'm like, you're looking at where I slept in the middle of an asylum, you know, where the patients were. It's like, I'll sleep, I gotta like go for it. So we walk out, and he stays in there, but you had an incredible electronic voice phenomenon he captured on a digital recorder, but it remembered you.
Yeah, it remembered that we had investigated there in the past, and you know, we find that often. It's like if they're intelligent, they're gonna know when you come back, and they're like, oh, those guys, I can talk to them, I can get my information to them, I can reach out to them, and it said, hey Adam.
It said hello
Adam. Yeah.
Which is insane. So it knew who we are. So when we go to these places, they do the same thing. It's like when you investigate, you really have to build a relationship with the entity, with something that's there. So you know, we usually have like the homeowner introduce us to them because the homeowner is around them all the time to gain trust and gain respect, because we have, you know, about 4 days to process all of this information, and we need to build a relationship quickly, because if they're intelligent, they're going to want to talk to us, and we have to gain their trust.
And that's how we know. They start talking. They start saying our names. They start
Right.
interacting with us more. It's pretty wild to watch this whole way we've been doing it. But some of our homes are like, we thought it would be less creepy because we're dealing with houses, but some of them, I mean, there's one case we did in Connecticut that we left and we all just didn't feel good afterward, and it just, something happened. Our DP got Lyme disease, our PA had his appendix out. This is all within like 72 hours of this
after
case.
we left the case.
We all felt sick. I ended up in the emergency room with like my back thrown out.
Our other camera guy threw his back out the next day. I lost housing for these people that were coming to town to visit. Like all of this happened within
like 3 days.
Right.
We were just after, and all of us said, we started texting, did we all just get cursed at this location? Like what happened?
So it's like cleansing and we have to get it out.
So I thought I had to worry about asylums, but apparently people's houses are just scary.
It's that energy. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in energy.
Yeah, for
energy is a real thing. We all produce energy, kinetic energy, or whatever energy happens after the body dies. And the fact is, you know, we will die, the body will die, but where does that energy go? Energy can't be destroyed, it lingers, it multiplies, it connects with other places and different locations. And I believe that's what we're truly dealing with, is this energy. But it's not just energy from our body, it's these neutrinos that's in our body. It's not just the positive and negative atoms. It's also the conscious memory. And there's major studies going on with the conscious thought and how when the body passes, how that conscious thought continues. And I think that encompasses energy with high levels of EMF, and it's the right environments that make up this energy. That's why we can see manifestations of people that shouldn't be there, ghosts, you know, that we call them, apparitions. And it's kind of like a mirror image of this energy that forms again. And that's what I'm really fascinated about, is just how that energy continues and what's next. That's the ultimate question. What is next?
Yeah, and be very afraid to look in anyone's bedside table drawer. It happens. And you find some really awesome things you never expect.
If they're haunted, don't give them to me.
Yeah. John, I found this awesome object. It's very haunted, want it? It's slightly used. What? It's true. Well, it's funny. Well, here's the thing. The reason why I say that is because not only do we investigate the ghost, but we have to find out who the client is, you know? And they tell us all this information, but we also find out more information about them and their families and their history and their genealogy and like where they come from and who they are. And people are surprised. They're like, "How did you know that?" It's like, "Oh, I looked. I saw." I looked through your books and like it was fine. It's like, "Oh, really?" And it helped us actually figure out X, Y, and Z. So it's helping both sides. It's being a therapist for the ghost.
So we even look in their medicine cabinets because
Yeah.
we want to know what medications they're taking.
And maybe they're not
Same
telling
thing,
us, you know?
what could be affecting their mindset and what they're experiencing. So we take it to like the next level for sure.
Right.
I'm locking up my cabinets. When
Yeah.
I'm
I had a room key earlier.
That's it then.
Any questions, guys?
You guys touched a little bit about, after an investigation, like spilling over, basically taking it with, have you guys all had
Yeah,
that experience
absolutely.
taking an
Yeah.
object where you've had to like cleanse yourself out because you brought it back with you?
We talk about it all the time, like, because that's a pretty fairly common question where people are like, "Wow, is it dangerous? Like, what happens?" And the thing is, if you do this work, you have to like accept the fact that there might be consequences because we don't know what we're dealing with. We think we know, but we really don't. And that's part of the reason why all of us are in this field to help figure it out because we know people have these experiences. We just don't know what causes them, and right now, Nick and I have been definitely suffering consequences of, it's actually the very first episode we filmed for the show. And I took a 5-year break from doing, I was doing more like events and lectures and bigger like asylum type things because I was working with clients before and I had to step away from it, but the very first one out the gate was like, basically we stepped into like, something crazy, and it's been affecting us ever since, which was
Our houses are
since
definitely
October.
haunted.
Yeah.
Our houses are definitely haunted now. My basement, there's something weird, and it's a fairly new house, 2004, so it's like you would never expect it.
Yeah.
But there's something like, it's not so negative, it just it lets us know that there is something there, and when it wants to be seen, it's seen. And recently, my wife woke me up in the middle of the night, and she's like, "There's someone in our house." And you know how you wake up out of the dead of your sleep, and you're like, "All right, are you sure there's someone else? Because I'm not getting up if it's not for sure."
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, I'm serious." And when I saw her face, she typically doesn't do that, so instantly I pop on my security cameras because I want to be ready if I go out the door, I had to search the whole house because she would have never been able to go back to sleep. So I'm looking at security cameras and I'm going through and I get to the basement, which is so weird, but on my basement, I have screenshots of it. You can see this mist apparition. It's so creepy. It comes down and it's holding something. And you can see kind of the face in it, and it's moving. And it moves to like one room and then comes back. And then what creeped us out is it sat down in the chair of my basement. And then sat there for a second, and then got up and moved. It gives me goosebumps now talking about it.
So what you're saying is you need us to come over and figure out what's happening.
We'll counsel you.
Honestly,
We're
I
good.
think it won't even help because I'll be honest. I had somebody over and I staged somebody who I really trust, and it's just the line of work that we do,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And sometimes when you play with fire, you're gonna get burnt eventually. So a lot of the negative kind of overflows and attaches itself to your aura and your energy, and it kind of connects. And telepathically, what we're learning is locations like the Hinsdale house that we investigated for season 1 of Paranormal Lockdown. It has this telepathic draw. Like we'll have nightmares. I'll be woken up at 3 a.m., 3:15, and I'll get up, and I'll just have this like image of this girl who comes to me that I didn't realize was a girl who actually died at the Hinsdale house. And she's like warning me about the location, but it's drawn me to the location for a certain reason. So it's like a sucker punch, when you least expect
It's
it.
also like these darker cases, like they kind of work in like a network. So the way we look at it is that if like a lower level entity who's a dark entity knows about you, they all know about you. It's like a pyramid scheme almost, like, they're all connected. And it's also when you put yourself out there, you can kind of picture it like we become lighthouses in a very dark room. So it's this beacon of light where they're like, oh, these people can communicate with me, or these people understand what's going on, and they'll seek you out which is really interesting.
They do. We've learned that once they know that you can talk to them, sometimes they get very desperate even, and that's when you start getting scratched or they start throwing things or they're touching you, and it's because you just picture it like anybody who's not been heard for years and years and years, and suddenly they're like, wait, you can hear me? And that's when the activity really starts ramping up. But I mean, on the other end of the spectrum, we also just tell people, you know, most of the entities you're dealing with are people. And so if you're an open, nice person, like we go in and we're like the most sunshiny paranormal investigators out there. You know, we walk in, we're all smiles, we talk to them like we just got to a party and we're trying to meet everybody. And that, I think, it attracts them, it makes them interact with us more, but it also makes us more susceptible to them being like, you know, we like you, we're gonna like hang out with you for a while. And yeah, you know, so we have had them like, you know, come home with us for a while, or you start having weird dreams and stuff, but we're dealing with family members most of the time. And so it's kind of this like therapeutic experience for the families, but at the same time it's also this understanding of these entities, because none of us want to be in that position. None of us want to be that unheard family member in a house, you know. And so we put ourselves in their shoes, and these aren't dark entities. Most of them, they're just people that want to be heard.
Right, and I would say also from her standpoint, because she's a mom, she attracts kid spirits a lot out of nowhere, and they may not even be connected to the property.
Yeah,
and then they just show up, and there's this child running around that sees her as a mom that just wants to be taken care of or helped through whatever the process it is. And it is terrifying because you're dealing with, you know, families and their emotions, and you don't want to give them any wrong information because they're going to latch onto anything that you tell them because they are looking for any means of relief. And also, you know, yes, they think, oh, my uncle, whoever's here, or my father's here, but then there is another side. Sometimes they're like, oh, but then there's something else here that like punches us or scratches us or pushes us or makes it feel really uncomfortable. Or my kids say they see shadow people and they're like waking them up at night and they cry and they don't sleep, and it's like, well, who is that? My grandmother would never do that to us, you know? So it's going in and finding out, and it can be really, you know, terrifying and we never sleep. I mean, nobody ever sleeps when you do this stuff. There's no sleep in any case.
I think it's the fact that with the amount of what you get involved with and how you deal with it, because I'm very numb to a lot of stuff now. I mean, things can happen, and you know, with the running schools and all these things, I'm so intrigued by it because they're moving forward. They're capturing more new information. They're getting things, and I get very excited by that because that's where some of the breakthroughs I think are going to come in our field. You know, just with Nick and Katrina, we were doing several things and capturing things left, right, and I'm sitting there like, whoa. Don't forget, I'm still a hippie at heart. So. You know, it's phenomenal watching the advances with everything that have come forth with a lot of equipment for me.
We still use the same recorder from '98 though.
That recorder
It's
is
an
the
awesome
best.
recorder from 1998 they don't make anymore, but it's like ridiculous. It gets the most amazing electronic voice phenomenon EVPs.
It's because like most digital recorders now are being like enhanced. So there's like a hertz. So anything below negative 20 hertz is what we realize where we're capturing voices, spirit voices, because it works on a certain frequency that we're starting to understand that that's where they can communicate a little bit easier. And we don't know why it's above that, but we're using new technology, and we have different theories that we're adapting with those theories with engineers, people who actually do electrical engineering, who do audio, and we're using new devices that we're like, wow, we're actually having intelligent conversations with something, I don't know who, but something from another side that is directly communicating back with us, because on the other side, wherever that is, we know they probably don't have vocal cords like us in reality in this time that we're living in. So how they communicate, and we think it's working on vibrational waves, EMF, and spirit voices kind of come through on that, like, you know, the spirit frequency.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting with the technology. Plus, we're advancing our cameras too. For Paranormal Lockdown, we're shooting in 6K resolution, which is the highest resolution possible to film, which is incredible because we broadcast in a different broadcast on Destination America, but we're seeing stuff we've never seen before.
I've never seen before. And it's interesting because, you know, I think for years kind of the argument against our field was, well, nobody's ever captured it on film. Nobody has, you know, kind of this piece of evidence. And it's funny because, well, yeah, and people have, like, people, they want, it's also like, they need to know for sure it's not fake. They need to see it with their own eyes, and I totally get that. And I think all of us up here would agree with that if we didn't have our experiences maybe we would be on the other side of the fence. But what's fascinating about what Nick is talking about, with the advancement of technology, we are seeing other things. So it's like, for all these years, did we just have the wrong equipment? And then it's also, when you think about it in terms of, well, why don't we have it on video camera? Think about how many things like are in our environment that we don't see right now, like radio waves. We can't see that. So what if, you know, we're just not working with the right technology? What if there's something that needs to be built to see this other spectrum? And that's what's really fascinating. And I think going back to one of the original questions of how has the paranormal changed, is that and I'm sure you guys can speak on this too, but I've seen so many more scientists get, you know what, I'm going to put myself out there that I think there's something going on. And they get involved and they get excited about the field. And that's exciting for me because it's giving legitimacy and validation for all these people that have had these experiences.
Yeah, no, she's absolutely right. I mean, with the 6K camera too, it's not just, and I think sometimes we get stuck in the redundancy of, okay, another location, let's do the same old routine. That's not how paranormal works, you know. We all know that it's like finding a needle in the haystack. You never know when that needle's gonna kind of poke you a little bit.
You know, I'm so glad you guys brought all this up, because I was going to ask you, on any of your shows, have you caught evidence that production didn't want to use? Because I mean, I know Grant through his gaming company, and you know, he told me that there were instances on Ghost Hunters that, you know, they get this incredible, you know, evidence, and production said, no, we're not going to use it. Never made it in the cut. And I'm friends with Chris Fleming. He told me the same thing years ago.
I can't speak for
Never on
them.
Destination America.
No.
Maybe those other networks,
I
but
must
not
say,
this
I
one.
mean, there was a case we did recently where we got a piece of evidence. Well, it wasn't something we were afraid to air. We were afraid to show it to our client because she was already so terrified.
Right.
And so we, as soon as it was just this EVP, and as soon as we heard it, I looked at him and I thought, we cannot play this for her because she's so scared. Like, this is not going to help. You're just living in her house with kids. And I'm sure it'll be on the episode, so I can't go too far in depth, but that has definitely happened where I'm like, is this going to make the situation better, or is this going to make it worse for our clients?
Right, so we have to be really spot on when we tell her what we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have to be like, so we're going to be honest with you. We're going to tell you we don't think, you know, whatever X, Y, and Z, but you know, they're going to air it, so I might as well tell you.
Yeah, we have
like
to.
they're going to show it, so I'm going to tell you. But there was some instances on GH where we did capture things, and for the sake of the hotel, or the sake, because you find something and people aren't going to come anymore. They're not going to come, and business is going to be ruined based on this thing right here.
Right.
So we may tell them about it and show it to them, but it just doesn't air because of the
For us, like, thank God, I mean, we're the production company, so we really have like 99% say in like what we're putting in. And for us, we have over 8 terabytes of footage. I mean, we're there for 72 hours, and we're rolling constantly. So we're condensing that to 43 minutes for a broadcast.
Yeah, right.
To the best stuff that we actually captured, our theories, what's happening, and those are the best moments, you know? Sometimes we'll sit around for an hour or two and nothing will be happening. We played checkers, where they said a haunted room was in Randolph County. And she still, well, it was funny because we were playing checkers. I don't think we were playing right number one. And she it was funny because I had like one left and she had like all these kings right around
So
me.
we must have not
And I'm
been
like,
playing
yeah, and there was a ghost named Bill in the room. And I'm like, all right, I think we should probably stop because we've been in here for an hour. And, you know, maybe we should let Bill finish this game. So I'm like, Bill, do you want to help me win? And just like move some of these around for me? But it's one of those situations. And then a little bit later, then we had suddenly your name coming through on
on the
a
tier
device
box.
that we had.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it kind of leads into another question is, do you guys start getting frustrated? This is more from like the production side of it. Because I almost signed for a paranormal show of my own and spent like 3 months in development with a major production company until it fell apart like at the last minute. But are you guys kind of frustrated with how much fluff they want to?
Not us.
No.
Not at all.
We have complete
because again,
control
we have
of
complete
our-
control on what we do.
Yeah, we're
So,
executive producers.
I mean,
they're-
you see what you get.
Right.
What
but
you see is what you
it
get.
seems like the trend now. They want all this, like, you know, let's add all this other crap that doesn't, just eats up time.
Well,
and
that's
if it
why we're
gets
not
something-
over there and we're over here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Right, I mean,
that's why we're doing what we love to do. I
Right.
mean, honestly, we have a passion for what we do, even if we weren't on TV or whatever. Like, forget that for a second. Like, we truly, this is what we have been doing all my life. Since I was a little kid, I would talk to my grandmother about all things paranormal. I don't know if we were destined for this, but it's weird how it, like Katrina and I were talking about, how it kind of just searches you out, and this is what your life is meant to be doing.
Right.
So we just go with the flow.
I
and-
know what you're talking about because I lived in a haunted house as a kid, and then I got into the investigating thing when I was looking to produce a show,
Yeah.
and I started going around the country, with different teams,
Yeah.
and it just sucked me in. It was
Right.
like you were thinking about it all the time. Because I mean, it is like you guys said, it's the ultimate question.
Yeah. The cool
The next
thing.
frontier.
Yeah,
Well-
the cool thing about like having, being in our position to have this show, Kindred Spirits for them and John Zaffis, Haunted Collectors and Paranormal Lockdown for us,
Yeah.
and been doing this for a long time, it gives us the opportunity and access to locations that we probably wouldn't get, and we have to
Right.
work even harder. So that's the great
Yeah.
thing, and that's why I love doing what we do. It gives us a little bit more leverage to gain access to amazing locations
right.
that some people
Right.
just
That's
don't get into.
huge. It's huge.
But there's all these paranormal experiences there, but only you guys can go out. Why is that? Like, let's break the boundaries.
I
We
know.
want to search out every place that has paranormal happenings.
I'd say the biggest thing that you guys should understand is we were all in this field long before
Yes.
Right.
Long
there was
before
a
the
thing on
cameras.
TV.
Yeah.
So and you should also understand, like, we executive produce our own show, they executive produce their own show, and they have the company that we work with is really, really, really great. And the thing is, we have control of all the content. When we show up to do a case, we know the facts, and the story writes itself. It happens.
It is. I mean, and that's like kind of what they were saying. We feel so fated to do this. Like every time we meet these families, it's like we're like, wow, we were supposed to be here. And the story does write itself. And what's great about Kindred Spirits is we're really showing kind of not just the investigation. We investigate for 3 nights in a row, but also just all the research that goes in behind it. Because we'll get evidence that first night. We're like, there's a name. What's this name? And the next thing you know, we're at the Historical Society the next day. We're digging into deeds the next day. We're interviewing family members. And then we come back with
Library,
that
town hall.
information and investigate again the next night. And so you get to see all that and come on the journey with us as we like solve this mystery, like
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo, I
Because
guess.
I mean, we're a little more, yeah.
It's happening.
I mean,
It's
I'm
happening.
definitely.
Need a dog.
I want to jump on the bandwagon.
We're a little more scientific.
We should all get on the bandwagon
Right.
together.
I know. I think we're 5
I mean,
people
Scooby.
here.
Well, we're a little more scientific than Scooby Doo, and it makes sense.
Yes.
But what you see on on some other shows, like it's you see investigating a lot, and that's great because it's scary and it's fun, and you see that on all of our shows. But really, you don't see all of the other work that goes
Yes.
into it.
Yeah,
It's
right.
all the
Right.
research and the historical stuff, and we sometimes that changes our entire
Oh, yes.
investigation
Yeah.
because we find one name or we find something that connects. It is incredibly exciting to do this work and to document it and to have people see it and go, oh, that's exactly what it is. That's what you see is what you get, is what we do, and it's as clean as possible, because if it's not, their fans will call you out. People in the
Oh,
business
yeah.
will call you out immediately,
Mhm.
and you have to be very careful because we take our work very, very seriously.
It's
Oh,
almost as it's almost as exciting when you get a piece of research that matches a piece of evidence.
Yes.
It's almost as exciting
It's
as
crazy.
getting that evidence.
It's
It's like
crazy.
this adrenaline rush.
Right.
It's wild.
Yeah, I was like what you're talking about. We were researching, or I was, for 15 years before I gained access to Franklin Castle,
Right.
in Ohio, and that was like one of the most iconic locations. It was the top 10 most haunted location in the country, and I'm like, well, how can that be? Like, not a lot of people have investigated, but it's all the stories and the legends and the
Right.
mystery behind that location. So we finally gained access for season 1 of Paranormal Lockdown, and it was incredible. I mean, it was incredible. It did live up to
Yeah.
its reputation pretty much. So just having the access to do that, a lot of research. Sometimes it will take us 10 years, 15 years.
But it's that low-tech research that
Yeah.
is really telling the story. Because I mean, you
Right.
can't count on something happening because it's
Yeah.
not.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, that's what you go out with other paranormal groups and they expect it to perform. Well,
Yeah.
it's not a performance. You
Right.
know.
It doesn't get, well, I was going to say, it doesn't get more low-tech than talking to Betty Jean, next door neighbor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That
And
gives
that's when
us
you
the
get
name
up,
of
right.
2 people, and one of the names show up in our investigation. Like, it doesn't get more low tech than that.
And not only that, we want to live at the location. Okay, if we put ourselves into these locations and confine ourselves and don't leave the land and the property for 72 hours, because I feel like 3 days is a long time, you
It's
know?
very
It's a
long
very
time.
long time.
It's long enough.
So,
Yeah.
after that, I mean, if there are things happening, all these stories talking about, then hopefully we'll document it. If that's just an EVP or just a voice, as simple as that sometimes in the paranormal community
Right.
now, then okay, then that's what it is. And it's the personal experience, though, going through it. And the grueling part about going through it, because we're up for 26 hours.
Right.
You got to let the mind and body rest. And we have a theory when we're at our most vulnerable state, when the mind escapes you and you just go to rest in the middle of the most haunted place. And it's just Katrina and I in this big insane asylum. We're on opposite ends. I always say, what's the worst that could happen?
And then I remind him what it is. I'm like, wow.
Right.
I can't drag out of your bed. Like, you won't be able to yell for me, and I won't be able to hear you. I'm like, well, until that happens, then just keep the cameras rolling, and
Right.
hopefully we document it.
Right.
With all the investigation that you guys have done over the years, how have your own views of the paranormal and the afterlife changed throughout your
John?
Yeah.
We did this, again, 44 years being involved with this. Back when I started, you have to remember, if somebody got touched or pushed, oh, that's a demon.
Yeah.
Look at it that way
Right.
now.
Yeah.
Again, you're looking at the realistic of what is occurring and what is happening, and we have a better comprehension of energy. We're made of energy. Thus, once it leaves that body, if you were a mean, rotten person in life, you're going to be like that as it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the most significant is, and shared it recently with everybody, several months back, I had a heart attack. And you always hear about when everybody's having the near-death experiences and everything. No, I didn't see the pearly gates, the harps didn't go off, kumbaya didn't happen. But, it was a weird experience, and it altered different things with me to make me take that step now and look like, wow, I remember when my mom was saying her brother or sister was around and everything like that, and some of these experiences were occurring and happening. And now, when I'm doing different sessions or investigating different things, I have deceased loved ones hanging around. And they're driving me freaking nuts. We're getting the recordings, we're picking up on them and everything, and it just turned into something that I never thought I would have that opportunity to experience. And now I can validate where, some of these things where deceased loved ones are around. And for any of you that don't know, Ed Warren passed away. And a couple of months afterwards, he starts coming through when we're investigating on tape. Ed. And it reaches a point, Ed, shut up, I'm trying to investigate. And then he'll tell me to shut up. And we captured this on tape. So it's been hysterical, and it's been funny watching that alteration take place with, now I'm tying that whole part of into pulling that part in with the afterlife part of it. So it's interesting, and you have to keep an open mind with all this, because your theories, your logic, your things change. And if it doesn't, and you get stagnant, like Nick said, we're not going to gain any knowledge.
Right.
Yeah, it becomes redundant.
So anytime they got equipment and everything, I'll take a look at it and they go, how do you even freaking turn that on? But I'm interested in the end result.
I feel like the more we do this, the less we know, kind of, because we'll think we have an established theory, and then we'll get this crazy bit of evidence that just kind of goes in the face of everything we thought was happening. So I just go into it now. Before I thought I had a very concrete idea of what things were, but now I just go into every case with an open mind, and I just don't know what I'm going to find next. I definitely question, as I've gotten older, my decision to constantly surround myself with death. That's something that I've kind of grappled with, especially after having a child. It's been I have a very different view of what we do now, and I'm like, how long am I going to be able to psychologically digest all of this without it seriously affecting me? Because we just, especially dealing with families that most of them have been through horrendous tragedies, and they're all wonderful, lovely people, and you're like, wow, this is heavy, and it gets to you. So it's a really strange, I never thought of that when I first got into the field. I didn't think of that long-term result.
Hopefully you'll last till season 10.
I know, I've got it. For 10 seasons.
Yeah, I think for me personally, it's, when I was growing up, I kind of just thought, when you died, you went to heaven or hell, and ghost was somebody who had passed on that's here to help you find their will, or, whatever it was. But being in the field, I look at it as, it's more of a spectrum. of things that, you know, a ghost may be a ghost like we think it is, but it may not be. Maybe it's just something, again, going back to science, it's something in our environment that produces or manifests that we don't quite understand how to detect it yet or why it's there. I don't think there's any concrete answers in this field, and I think that's probably my biggest realization from working in it, that there are no answers. And everything that we talk about is based off of theory and case studies and just working together
And knowledge.
and right, just
knowledge.
putting together the patterns that we've seen. And it's all really fascinating because I'm very excited to see where the field goes as we keep expanding.
It's weird with me, like if you come over to my house and have a dinner conversation, it would be the deepest conversation you probably ever think of. It's not just one-sided that here's a ghost and let's hear your ghost story. It's everything across all spectrums, like Katrina's talking about. I love all things paranormal, anything unexplainable. I've been like that since I was a kid. I used to talk to my grandmother used to talk to me about like aliens and UFOs and ghosts. I grew up in New England, so you know a lot of like alien stories and abduction stories. One of the oldest back there from like the 1950s, and you know that's how I kind of grew up in that kind of mentality of being that weird kid when I was 13 years old in my bedroom, listening to Art Bell on the radio, my little boom box, and having a map spread out. Remember maps, not phones. Yeah. And like my dad walked in, he's like, "What are you doing with the map?" And I go, "I'm going to Area 51 someday." You know, it's like just because I listen to Art Bell and this unexplainable bass. So I was that adventurous, very hyper ADD kid that always just wanted to search out the unexplainable and go off the beaten path a little bit. And maybe that guided me into this kind of crazy quest.
It's a drug.
Yeah.
It truly is.
it
It's
is.
like
It's
something we
adrenaline.
crave and we have to do. And
Yeah.
the more we find out, the less we know.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre, and it's like this big puzzle that we continue to put together. I always say we always start with the middle of the puzzle and work out. It's never the corners first, you know? It's like always starting from some place and trying to make sense of it.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
And as I go along and I listen to what everybody says to me in the field or anything, and what I look for is that passion.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're looking for, what is that journey about? And at the end of that journey is, what are we dealing with? We want that golden answer. Is there a hell? Is there a heaven? Is there those different planes? And all of us are out there searching and looking for that. And to me, being in the research field of this and in the paranormal end of it, as long as everybody keeps an open mind and you can keep pushing forward, even though you might push it a little too much. You know, I laugh and I smile a lot of times when we're talking and having conversations, and I go, "Oh, John doesn't approve of that." And I even said this to Nick. I go, "It's not that I don't approve." I said, 30 years ago, yeah, I gave a lot of things a lot of shots, you know, to try to prove things and learn things.
Right.
So this is what I look and I admire that when I see them doing it and moving forward with their shows, and I'm very excited, you know, that they're out there doing that and everything. That's important because they have the passion. That's what you need in anything you do, and especially in the paranormal, you need that passion.
Right.
And that's a great point. You gotta love what you do,
Yeah.
period, in life, just in general. You know, and if you're not loving what you do and really appreciating and going through life where you're in a positive mentality, I mean, it could have a drain on you. I mean, you can really get stuck in that negative sense of surrounded by all the other things that we might speculate in, like the demons and this and that can engulf your own mind and mental and well-being, because when we do leave locations, that energy, you know, that energy can linger, and it can really just like disrupt your own mentality and your own well-being. And it's happened. I mean, it's happened to me personally. I know it's happened to you, John. We've talked about it. I mean, it can be very scary, and if you're not grounded and you don't know where you're going in life, you know, then you fall off quick.
I think the coolest thing though now is there are tons of people out there that do what we do. Like you have an interest, there's tons of people that have interest in what we do. And they want to watch things that are true to what we do. And so, you know, Destination America has created a network where you can go and you get that 24/7. You can go, you can sit there and watch us do what we do, and then interact with us on Facebook and Twitter and ask us questions about cases, and we interact with you and we answer your questions, and people send us pictures of boards and they talk about haunted objects and what do I do with my grandmother because she's haunting my room. Like, you know, people they contact us And Destination America has really created this outlet for your one-stop paranormal, shop. I guess basically, you don't have to search for it anymore. You know where to go.
Yeah, and the cool thing this season, Destination America is doing Ghostober. So Ghostober is going to be really fun. It's going to be all paranormal month.
Ooh, Ghostober, guys.
Ghostytober. Yeah, so it's gonna be really cool though. But and we're pushing ourselves. I know
Yeah.
you guys had your
Yeah.
show coming out in the fall, and then that whole month, and we're announcing some amazing news today too at our panel.
We announced it.
Oh, you did?
We announced it, I guess.
Yeah,
we got it. We got it. Great.
I don't even know where I am half the
Welcome
time.
back.
Like, am I in San Diego right now? I'm like, wait, is everyone real here? Is am I in an insane asylum right now? Maybe I'm insane. I don't know.
Who's that guy?
I know. And so cool news. We're doing a Halloween 2-hour special coming up, and we're really, really excited because we both have been researching this location for a while now. And this, honestly, there's not a lot of things that actually scare me after doing what I do. I've laid in morgues for an hour, not against my will, I guess. That was kind of like an unbred idea at the time. But I've been all over like crazy places. But this location that we're going to, the Black Monk House in England, has a major amount of history, a lot of bloodshed. It's where the gallows used to sit, Pontefract Castle in England. And it is just a historic location, and we're actually very nervous, to be honest. And we've been talking about this a lot because we've been having, you've been having some nightmares about it. You're gonna see John in it, and we talk a great conversation.
Yeah.
And you were saying it was probably one of the most deepest, genuine conversations you had in a long time about just the paranormal and the theories, what we believe is there haunting the place.
Yeah, it's an intriguing piece of property, because Nick and I were on the phone, we're going back and forth, and he was being secretive about it. And he's going, and I'm like, you're talking about the monk case. He goes, see, John, that's what I like about you. You know everything, and you know about all the old hauntings. I went, dude, this is cool, you guys are going there. But it's got to deal with the land, it's got to deal with the building, it's got to deal with a whole bunch of different things coming together. And a term that I use very often with this, when all this stuff pulls together, it's what I call the perfect storm, where everything pulls together, and a lot of times that paranormal activity is just going to be right through the rough. So not guaranteed, but a lot of times when that all lines up like that, that's cool. And I said, if they get into too much trouble, I said, you better call me early. And Nick goes, why? I said, I got to do a lot of paddling to get across the paddle.
Yeah, I mean, this is labeled as the most violent poltergeist in the history. I mean, it's labeled right up there, and it was kind of happening at the same time as the infield case was happening. And it's well known in Europe, but not so well known domestically, but it's making its way over here. And the crazy thing about this location, that's why I'm like, drop everything we're doing, we're going there. It's like you go into the eye of the storm. When you have a poltergeist case, you have to go full throttle right at it, because that's the type of hauntings we want to document. But this case is absolutely scary, and we're doing stuff that we've never done before.
Yeah, it's also the longest
investigation
continuous
ever that
investigation
we're gonna do.
documented.
And I don't even know how we're gonna survive just like confining ourselves just in general. So I don't know what else is gonna be
I'm
like.
like trying to mentally prepare myself for it.
But no one's lived there for like about 40 years. This is a case from the 70s, and I mean, there was a little girl who was dragged up the stairs. She was being choked and lifted into the air. It was witnessed by multiple people, police officials that tried breaking it down. Her mom, they ran out of the house, and they were researching some new information about some stuff that we just found out too, that they did a whole exorcism on the house and everything, because usually when you have a poltergeist case, it's an individual person that has the poltergeist attached to them. And it's usually, and John, you can speak on this, going through puberty as an individual, and that enhances the energy and whatnot into the environment. But with this case, it's so unique because it's the actual location that has the poltergeist. And there's a lady who lives right next door that's built on these low-income housing after the battles that took place there. We think it's on a burial ground that's ancient, and it's right where the gallows was, and it's a mile from the castle. And this lady who lives right next door, she's about 50 Mauritians moving in and out of the house. She's some things flying all over the place. So we're gonna be talking to her too, but
In her house, not.
It's right next door.
They're like
It's
like
the
a
whole
twin.
entire neighborhood that's haunted pretty much.
Yeah.
It's the whole land. I mean, it starts with the land, it starts with the castle. There was multiple executions that dates back to the 10th century. And we know, and we're researching it further, that we think that the father, during the exorcism, a little bit after, the daughter who was strangled and being killed and being possessed and dragged up the stairs, we think that the father actually passed away in the house too after the exorcism. He choked on his own vomit, supposedly. So we're researching that further to see if there's multiple spirits that are in the house, so not just like loved ones that you guys go after. But this is where it gets honestly scary to me. I won't lie, like this frightens me because we're dealing with something now, forget the term demonic, but there's something so negative and sinister, I think, of years, decades, of the land being saturated with bloodstain and negativity, that now it's created some other energy form that's encompassing this house, that they believe it's a black monk who is hung there, who's hooded, and there's documented proof of this that's very creepy, of this hooded figure they've captured and documented for, I don't know, since the 70s. And we think that we're actually not dealing with this monk who is hung. We think we're dealing with something more sinister, and that's why we're talking to John about it in the special. So it's gonna be a rush.
Yeah.
But we're kind of prepared. But you've been having nightmares about
Yeah,
it too.
it's been, it's actually really funny because since we started talking about the Halloween special is when things started kicking back up in my house. Oh, thank you. And we were having,
Gotta go.
we were having shared experiences. So he lives in New England, I live outside of Philadelphia, and what he was talking about with his basement earlier where they saw a figure, an hour after that I had something happen in my house. And I had texted him, I'm like, did you have anything weird happen? And he was like, well, he told me his story, and that's been happening a lot lately. And kind of what happens is it goes back to that theory we have where these things know who you are. So if they are aware that we're coming, we're going to England, we're going to do this investigation, and it is something dark, it is something negative, they might be trying to throw us off. They might be trying to scare us. They might be trying to, confuse us.
Or manipulate us.
Or manipulate us, right? And that's how these things work. Their whole purpose is they're kind of like bullies. They just want to manipulate you and, have the ruin of souls and, they want to control. So.
Yeah, and that happens frequently.
Yeah, I know. I was dealing with a case that was a family. It was actually family friends, and they thought they were dealing with something demonic or negative. And the girl's brother called me, and as we were on the phone talking, because whatever was there knew they were reaching out for help. And so this was probably 10 o'clock at night. We're talking. He's hiding outside. He said all the lights were going on and off in the house while he was talking to me. And I'm talking to him, and all of a sudden I hear my daughter crying upstairs. And I'm like, hang on, I think Charlotte's awake. And I walk upstairs, and she's fast asleep. And right then I knew, okay, they're trying to mess with me. So I go back downstairs, and I didn't say anything to him. I just kept it like, I was just listening, and I wasn't alarmed, honestly, because they are bullies and whatever. But then it happened again, and I went up, and she was still fast asleep. And I, again, didn't say anything to him, and then right then my hair got pulled while I was on the phone with him. And it was just trying to intimidate me, but they know when they're trying to get help. And I ended up referring him to some local clergy, but they got the help that they needed, and I was not bullied by whatever that was, and nothing happened like that again. But it is strange. It is disconcerting.
Right.
They will do that to you, And an inexperienced investigator, that could really harm them potentially. If they didn't know that could be happening, that could freak them out, and then suddenly they're weaker, and then whatever that is latches onto them. And so you have to be very strong and ready for stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you guys are ready. I mean, come on.
Yeah, you see
You're strong enough.
Going in airbox.
Yeah, I mean, you guys do that. I'm gonna carve pumpkins.
We're gonna go trick-or-treating.
Carve pumpkins. Send me like selfies. Send me some selfies. I'll be like, oh look, they're in the dark. Yeah, fine.
It's gonna be crazy. Whose idea was this?
I mean, next Halloween we'll all do something together. Let's plan it.
Yeah,
that way.
definitely. That would be cool.
That would be great.
Maybe in like a nice, cute little house. Or
See?
something.
Maybe maybe Amityville House.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, if we can get in there, right.
We only have about 10 minutes left. Any other questions?
I have a question. So, what would be like one piece of advice you would give to someone who might be interested, like an amateur investigator, like something that could help them along the way? Maybe less like something like about the equipment, or maybe something that you don't show in your shows, or that doesn't get out very often, that you think like everyone should just know going into it,
I think
like mentally even.
the 3 top things that come to me is do your research, because and it's like what Adam said, you don't get shown that on the shows a lot. There's months of research that goes into our work. Work with people you trust, because you're going to be relying on their eyewitness accounts. And like Amy said, never go in expecting to know how something's going to go, because it'll go exactly the other way.
And be open-minded. I mean, you got to remember, not everything is paranormal.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when you're in old buildings,
Right.
that the building shifts, and it's not like, oh, that's the ghost. You have to be open-minded, but it is also the personal experience when you're going through. So it's that electricity jolting through your body, so those goosebumps or the hair standing up. I mean, personal experiences like that. Roll on a typical digital recorder. You don't need to go out and get like wicked expensive fancy equipment and stuff like that to have paranormal experiences. Sometimes you're just going in and having your own personal experience, you know? And I think you have to be open-minded.
I think a big thing too is do a lot of reading on what it is that we're doing and where it came from. Like I always tell people to read up on the history of spiritualism and where paranormal investigation started, because it did start in the United States in the 1800s, and it's just a really interesting past. And once you get that, kind of gain that respect for the field, it just makes what you're doing all the more important. So it's a fun hobby, but it really is a field of research that's been going on for so long, and it's super interesting.
Yeah, do not just watch us on TV and then recreate what we do.
Right.
That doesn't
Unless
work.
it's a spoof.
that
lot
doesn't
better.
work. It does, but like, you know, anyone can hunt ghosts, or you know, and anyone can do what we do. Just take it seriously. Don't make fun of it, and like, really,
Right.
and don't be afraid to tell the clients that you've explained away everything. Because a lot of clients really want their house or their property or whatever to be haunted for some weird reason. They're like, you know, they go in and they're like, it's haunted, it's haunted, it's haunted, it's haunted, and then you turn around and you don't find any evidence of haunts, but you can explain everything away. It's just don't be afraid to tell them the truth,
Right.
because they need to hear that.
And know that it's going to be years probably before you are in a position where you could have clients.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah, yeah,
quickly,
yeah.
people will
Right.
watch a show and next thing you know they're knocking on their neighbor's door.
Come and investigate.
Come investigate, and they're taking everything they say as like the absolute truth when they've just, you know, they were watching us.
Right,
you know,
right.
so-
And it's like, yeah, you have to.
and not reading and.
So that goes for people who are needing help. It's like we can't go to everywhere, and there are groups that you can reach out to, but do your research about who you want to help you.
Yes.
Don't just get Joe Schmo who started a website 2 days ago. That doesn't work. You know, they're not going to be able to help you as much as they think they're going to help you. And it's a serious business, I'd say.
I think our field is like anything else. You gotta proceed. You have to gain knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to have that backing you before you jump in and start helping people. You know, especially with residential things, we all come up against that. That makes me extremely nervous when somebody just watched one of our shows and they're out there doing an investigation, and you know, and especially if it deals with children.
Yes.
That's the worst.
That's the hardest part. So I always tell people, educate yourself just like anything else. Gain that knowledge, because that's what's going to be able to help you to understand this whacked out world we're all in.
Maybe we should just start a university, you guys.
Yeah.
Like, a la Harry Potter. Just be like, you know, you could be the dean. Right? We could do, I don't know. Maybe that's what we need, because they don't have a school for this. They don't have a university. It's all life experience and who you know.
And common sense.
Well, sometimes you have to go through a life experience, like
have
anything.
to.
You gotta go through experiences just in general in life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of living. right? So we have to go through these experiences to get to that next point. And I used to say, like, I'm never doing that again, and then I do that again. Never say never, and go through life and enjoy it, be positive, because sometimes you'll be stuck in a location for 72 hours, and it's hell.
Yeah.
That's truly hell.
I'll add on to it, like, we also don't know everything. So,
Right.
for instance, you see a lot of people that go out and they investigate. Well, if we're dealing with a child, we're not going to say we're child psychologists. We will call in a child psychologist to speak to the child to get a diagnosis from that person, because I'm not going to tell a parent that a ghost is doing something to a child if the child has not been evaluated specifically. So what we like to do is, to admit we know a lot of things, but we don't know everything.
Right.
And it's nice to have experts come in and give us their take on things to help us give them a solid answer to what's happening in their house.
I wish I knew everything.
Apparently,
wouldn't be doing what we're doing.
Apparently, when you die, you do know everything.
Oh,
So
okay.
maybe one day.
Yeah. So, like, season 10 for all us, we'll just create a show called Flatliners.
Yeah.
And we'll just, John, you can just
John, you're on it.
flatline us, fall in the back, and be like, listen, we're busy over there, don't go over there.
So clearly, there's a lot to look forward to in October. I mean, there's Paranormal Lockdown, there's Haunted Collector, there's Kindred Spirits. It's where you go to find all your spooky fun. Well, year round, really. It's going to be year round, but I mean, it starts in Ghostober.
Yeah, Ghostober.
Ghostober! I thought I was going to say Hauntober, but then I was like, that's not right.
Ghostober.
That's not right.
I have a question.
Can you give us a quick bio as to how you got into this field?
We're just stuck.
Oh, God.
When I was 8, I fell from a tree, ripped open my arm, but that's not how I got started. It's just a full story. Honestly, I just kind of fell into it. It's been a fascination all my life since I was a little kid about all things paranormal, and one day I said to 2 of the other guys I knew way back in Las Vegas, hey, you want to go look for ghosts? And that's how it all started. And we went off and filming everything we could possibly film. Too much filming in the car. So that all kind of got condensed. But then we captured some amazing footage, and I was like, wow, I want to show the world. So I was going to everybody I knew to say, debunk this, show this, get it on news. This is crazy. I've never experienced this. And from there, it just kind of took off. And here we are, Paranormal Lockdown.
For me, I grew up in haunted houses, and then as I continued to grow, I kept having more and more experiences. And I went to college, and they had a group, an investigation group, and I joined. And they actually had training, so I went through training to be an investigator, and we worked with clients, and I was their case manager, and then fell into the television world from that. So,
I am not real. I don't exist. So. No, I grew up in a house that I thought was active and haunted, and I've been passionate about it since I was a kid. I had experiences growing up. I started my own team. We would investigate places where I lived locally for for 3 or 4 years, and then I ended up being on Ghost Hunters Academy, which was a spin-off of Ghost Hunters, and I was trained by 2 of the, I don't mean quotes, like I wasn't really trained. No, I was. I was trained by them, and I had my own knowledge, and I took my own spin and took what I wanted and made my own thing, and I ended up being on Ghost Hunters with Bruni for 6 years, and we were working together doing that. But in the meantime, I still had my own team. I was still traveling the country doing lectures and meeting awesome people like John. It's the first time I ever met John, about 7 years ago, and and we just continue, and here we are today.
Yeah, I think I started when I was a kid. It was weird. My family's like super new agey and weird, and so we were living in a haunted house, and they never said, ghosts are scary. They were like, they're our friends, and so that was really how I was never taught to be afraid of what was happening in the house. It was just totally normal and accepted to us, and so my dad and I would investigate together with like our feet up old tape recorder, and so I always had that weird ghost thing. Like even in my yearbooks, people called me Ghost Girl and stuff, and I ended up having a very normal life. I was a project manager for a health insurance company for quite a while, and on the weekends, thank God I stopped that. But on the weekends, I would fly myself to all these crazy haunted places, and I've been part of various paranormal teams, and so it was this kind of secret hobby. And then one day I ended up being on TV. I got offered the job on Ghost Hunters, and it was the most awkward exit.
So you like turned it
ever.
down, like?
No, I turned it down once, but yeah, when I finally told the like HR department that I was leaving to chase ghosts on a reality television show, it was like this really strange conversation. But and then I just kind of it went from there, and I mean I feel like again everything happens for a reason, and ending up on TV brought me to the East Coast where I met my significant other, and now I have my daughter, and now we have this amazing project that we're working on, and I've just like never been more. I know I said me. What I'm saying is like it's just so funny how it all kind of came to fruition. Now I just feel like we've come full circle.
I don't think we had a choice in it.
No.
Right?
No. Again, too, growing up, being around Ed and Lorraine Warren, I mean, you know, holidays, Christmas, all these things, we're talking about ghosts. But I did not believe in anything till I was 15, 16, and I had an experience. And that's what changed me. I started looking into it. And, you know people say, oh, how was it working with Ed and Lorraine Warren? I don't know, they were my aunt and uncle. I'd go visit them, we'd go look for ghosts. It wasn't, where you sat down and had lunch or anything like that. My uncle would always say, come on, we're gonna go someplace. And you didn't know where you were gonna end up. So to me, it was, an adventure, and just the different way things line up and the way it happened. If you ever told me 40 years later down my life I'd be out chasing ghosts, like Andrew was saying, it's just the way things unfold, the way things go, and here I am out there, chasing Casper all over the place.
Here we are, all on Destination
Yeah.
2016.
I have one quick question. I know John mentioned like maybe going to the Vatican, and just from a religious perspective, how credible are priests and exorcists? And I know they're not per se ghost hunters, but do you think they do have that ability to kind of channel that and alleviate and get rid of that?
One of the things we talk about in the paranormal a lot is that, because that question comes up a lot, like, well, is it only Catholic people that believe in demons? And no, every religion has some form of this darker entity. And something that I used to tell all my clients was that it really doesn't matter what religion you go with, as long as you believe in it. That's what's going to give it its power to combat these things. So whether you're Jewish or you're Catholic or you don't believe in anything, we've done things where it's like you just kind of have like a neutral, I don't want to say ceremony, but kind of like a blessing of a house to give that environment a better feel. And I mean, so I think that's where it stems from, is that, these priests, and I'm sure John's worked a lot with the Catholic Church, but it's, they believe in this so much, what they're doing, and they fast for 3 days, and it's to have the church actually do a proper exorcism is a very long process. It's not just like, an exorcism, and they're like, be there in a minute. It's like, it takes like months, and you have to prove that there's no other explanation for the things going on. So it's a very serious matter.
They make you get like mental health evaluations, everything before they.
There's an entire committee, and it just doesn't consist of the Roman Catholic Church and the priests that I've been involved with for many, many years. We call it the underground, and it's a very organized, structured thing with a lot of spiritual people that are involved with it, rabbis, priests, and etc. And a lot of them just like to keep everything very secretive, and that's perfectly fine, and I'm comfortable with that. So again, a lot of your spiritual people are very well trained within. And, again, due to the TV shows and a lot of the different things occurring today, a lot of different clergy, you're able to get them to speak today. You couldn't get that before. I had gone to a huge nature conference where we had different religions that came together. That doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen.
And it finally occurred and happened where we had like 300 plus spiritual people worldwide that came together for this conference. It was the first time it's ever happened in history, and I was glad to be a part of that.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
And how's your normal life?
It's really weird.
It's as normal as we'll get, right?
Yeah, I crave like going home, because it's like I just try to be as normal as possible.
Yeah.
We just sit on the back deck, relax.
She has a business. I run a nonprofit theater company at the same time.
I think being weird is the new normal.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
We try to be normal.
You think of all of that stuff that you experience every day, like Can you
Yeah.
sleep? Can you?
Yeah.
No, well,
I
it
try to
affects.
leave
I
it.
mean,
It affects
we
us, I mean,
definitely.
lack
And
of
I've
sleep.
lost friends over it. To be honest, like, and it's not that they're like, "You're a weirdo. I'm never talking to you again." It's not. It's nothing like that. But it's just like when you go through this stuff and you have these experiences, your like perspective on life and how to connect with people totally changes. I remember my best friend since we were like 13. I was telling her we were working a demonic case at the time. And I was telling her about it, and she's like, I don't know what to say to you or how to respond to you. Because that's not something that, I mean, half the people don't even believe in that, you know? And so, like, how you connect with people, it's very hard. And so, like, I find, like, my relationships with the people up here are sacred.
Yeah.
Because these are the people I can call, and I can say, this just happened, I don't know what to do, I feel like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they kind of talk you off the ledge a
They're
little
like,
bit.
oh, I've seen that before.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah.
I'll never leave you, Kat. It is weird though, because I'm realizing the more and more we do this, it's kind of like a computer, right? If you've never used a computer before and you start learning it every day, you get better at it. It's the same thing when we go into locations looking for spiritual energy or ghosts or whatever the phenomena is. You get more in tune with it and sensitive, and it is kind of a destiny that all of our lives have kind of guided in this path. And it's weird because no matter where we go, even when we're out of that location or we're being driven to the airport, somebody wants to tell us a paranormal story. Before we even say who we are or what we do or anything, we'll be talking. We were talking in the back of a car driving us to the airport when we were promoting Paranormal Lockdown, and he must have heard us over talking about just random things. And he starts saying, well, I was in a car, I got this weird story how I was driving in a car and we got in a major accident and I was pronounced dead. And I had this this weird epiphany, like he
had,
saw
like,
his
an
brother
out-of-body experience.
and what he was wearing and where he was coming from and when he was getting on the airplane. And then when he got there, when he woke up in the hospital, he was telling his brother what he was wearing and everything when he was actually there. He's like, how would you know that? I was like thousands of miles away, getting on the airplane, but it was like it was a creepy story that he was telling. But those are stories that people feel connected with, telling us. I don't know why,
Right.
but then we listen and we hear them because we don't find them crazy. And it's all about the story, to be honest with you. It's about connecting with people, just in general. Because I believe that we're all interconnected in this universe in some weird way, and that's why we're sitting here talking to each other now. Who knew this conversation would happen today? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
everyone
weird
has a
how the
ghost
world
story.
works.
Everyone has a
Right.
ghost story. Once they find out what we do, they're like, oh, can I ask you a question about something? And then they tell you, and you're like, oh, well, I know what that is. Or like, you hear a story and you're like, I have no idea what that is. I've never heard that before in my life. I mean, we're all,
Well,
we are.
interconnected
Yeah,
aliens.
yeah. We all end up in the same place. I always say that if people really got to experience even half the stuff that we've seen, there would be no war. There would be no arguments. No one would have anything to fight about because they'd be like, oh, so this isn't it.
Yeah. Like
This isn't it, right? Like it's so much bigger than us.
Yeah, and that's a great point too, because some people call this hell, you know, like people in third world countries and kids that just grow up with cancer all of a sudden. Like, I don't get how life works like that. It is kind of depressing when you think about it and you talk to people who go through these tragedies and these life experiences. And I think that's the hope. You know, we hope for a better place because sometimes this is hell, you know, so we hope there is a better place. And we hope grandmother who passes on or these loved ones who pass on or people at insane asylums that didn't have a life are at a better place. But sometimes I think this energy is so confused and whatnot, it's still lingering, and that's sometimes what we communicate with.
And that's where we come in to do both, to do all the work, to help kind of figure out the answers for both sides.
And it's great too because when we work in these historical properties, you know, like asylums, we get to shed light on the truths behind that because there's a lot of myths about those things, like that they were all evil, and, you know, and so we get to, you know, I always find it great that we get to bring out the history and the truth about some of the histories of our nation and some of these properties.
Yeah, there was an amazing location we just started filming for season 2 of Paranormal Lockdown called the Oliver House in Middleborough, Massachusetts. It's right near Plymouth Rock. And this house dates back to 1760s. Everything inside is original, hasn't been touched. It's insane. I've never stepped foot in a house that's so old. But this house actually started the Revolutionary War. and it was a house where Benjamin Franklin came in.
Yeah, this is actually
snuck
awesome.
upstairs during the
Yeah.
party, stole the letters out of the
Yeah,
closet.
they, like basically it was like the Olivers. They were loyalists, and they were totally against breaking off to become America, and they were like, you guys are all rebels. So they're like, Ben, listen, come up here, like we're gonna have dinner. We're gonna talk you into why we should remain with England. And Ben's like, yo, I'm all about this. I'll be there. He goes. Everyone like goes to sleep. Ben like sneaks upstairs, steals all their stuff, and like all their letters back to England, telling them what was going on. Steals all of it and like takes off. And so it helped fuel the Revolutionary
And
War.
then
And
there
his
was a mob
letters
that
are in
pushed
a
him out to
museum.
England.
Yeah. So.
I wish they would talk like that.
And
Yo,
then-
Ben,
Listen,
come here.
bro.
And then they wrote the musical Hamilton.
And that's
Yay!
it. Drop the mic.
History.
Drop the